Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Good evening, Maverick family. Good evening, everyone. We have an intimate broadcast set up tonight, and I'm going to throw it over to Brendan to say hello first, and then we'll explain why.
Hello, everybody. It is Brendan Kennedy, your co-host with the Maverick News Channel. I would say happy Monday, but I have like this bitter taste in my mouth.
It is what it is. Congratulations is what I would say. We've achieved something that puts us into a very distinguished and elite club. We have been banned for 7 days on YouTube. Good job, Brendan.
Well, it must have been something you said. I was gone for 3 days.
I think it was a lot of things that were said, but mostly things that were said by Donald Trump, because we ran some live footage of Trump on various occasions, and what they did is they went back in and really seemed to target those videos mostly and started taking all that stuff down. And now we're banned for 7 days. Can't upload, can't live stream, can't do diddly over there on YouTube. Now here's the other thing. Facebook has been suppressing our stuff too for the last few weeks. Received some notifications from them. They want some verification of identity and some other forms filled out, because they have identified us as being social media content generators, that we have the potential, they say, to reach a very large audience, and we have been. So we were on their radar now. We've been targeted. We've been taken down on YouTube, and they have been suppressing everything over on Facebook as well. So we're building over on Rumble. We do have subscribers there. We're building on Odyssey now. We are broadcasting live on Odyssey. And we've been asking people to go over and subscribe on those platforms, especially Rumble. But it's difficult to get people to go over. People are really stuck on YouTube. And it's because there's a lot of content on there. The technology is, I think, the most advanced of all the video platforms. The search engine, the algorithm is such that it puts content in front of people that they find relevant in much the same way that Facebook does. They're playing with people's minds. And they get right in there, and they do it with the content that's generated. And they say, this is stuff that you would be interested in. They know, they can tell, they have the technology to not just put videos up on the internet. They know what kind of videos generate an emotional response from people, what sucks them in and engages them. And that's the stuff they're putting in front of people all the time. Their technology is clearly superior in that way. That's why people have a hard time migrating from there. Plus, they have the largest audience, the most content, so people don't leave.
Yeah, millions of hours of content get uploaded to YouTube like every hour. It's insane. Yeah. They do have a technocracy on this whole thing when it comes to this kind of content. And this is really, it's not surprising, I would say.
Well, we knew this was going to come. We've had warnings about content. I'm not really that surprised, but we're not dead. We're just banned for 7 days, and it gives us an opportunity to build out onto these other platforms more and build subscriber base there. And that's what we are going to be doing over the next week. We're going to get our website up where we can post videos and do some live streaming over there as well, without the need to rely on YouTube or Facebook. We'll stay over there on Facebook and try to get as many people to migrate over as we can. But for now, we've been bad boys, and we got spanked.
Well, Donald Trump, you got in trouble, and now we're in trouble.
See, what I won't do is I will not bend the knee.
No.
And I will not water down my words. Now, we may choose to not run content over there because they're just going to take it down. So what's the point in, again, as I say, run into the middle of no man's land to get shot in the forehead? There's no sense in that.
Yeah.
But we're just going to keep on working as hard as we can to build an audience in other areas, and they're not going to shut us up, right?
I'm not going to be silenced.
No. Screw them. Screw them.
Yeah, screw YouTube.
Yeah.
The garbage.
Yep.
Well, they're not garbage. They're really good, but I hate how you operate. Your politics suck.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And it's a shame, though. YouTube has an opportunity to be something with true diversity of thought and a true market square, if you will, for ideas and content.
Yeah, well, it used to be more of that, but not now. But we have other things to talk about tonight as well. We're going to get into more censorship. We're going to talk about this, what people are, I guess, affectionately calling it the Ministry of Truth.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we'll talk more about that in the U.S. We'll talk about pending censorship legislation in Canada. We're going to talk about the hate crime in Ottawa over the weekend. I said it's an update, but it's more of an analysis or commentary, I think, on what happened up there yesterday before a church service began, where graffiti was spray painted on the side of a church where bikers from the Rolling Thunder biker rally were attending a service. So we'll talk about that. What else do we have?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, so that there's some things that need to be stated, and that there's really more to the story than a couple of overpaid, whiny, cry people having trouble getting along. But there's more to it in the sense that there's a reflection of humanity in there. And there's been some movements that have caused a lot of people, innocent or not, to be fired via public opinion, the court of public opinion. And there's some things that are worthy of speaking about there.
And we're also going to talk about Joseph Bourgault. He is a businessman from Western Canada he's been on this program. He was all lined up and ready to take a run at the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada, only to find now that they have rejected his application. So we're going to talk about that, talk about maybe why. We don't have all the information at this point, but it raises some red flags for me, and it's not entirely surprising. We'll talk about that. Where do you want to start tonight?
Well, let's delve into censorship as we were censored.
Okay, so why were we censored? Mostly because we ran some Donald Trump content. That set off some alarm bells. Finally, we were on their radar. We've been flying under their radar. And the reason, the way that we've been doing that is the channels haven't been monetized, so they haven't paid as much attention to us. We had multiple YouTube channels set up. A couple of them were generating the bulk of the views. I resurrected. See, when we started this whole thing, it's because Brendan and I realized there was a need for another social media outlet to counterbalance, honestly, the lies of the mainstream media. And we saw that need heading into the Freedom Convoy, which was on its way to Ottawa. So I said to Brendan, I have this news channel because I used to work for CTV News. And when I left there, I started my own media company. And one of the platforms that I set up was a news platform, Maverick News. And we did have some subscribers, but I set this up a long time ago in the early days of YouTube. So I had a bit of a subscriber base there, and I would post to it occasionally, some content. So I rolled that back out, fired it back up, tweaked the channel, got it all set up, and it just took off like wildfire. And we have thousands and thousands of subscribers on there now, thousands of viewers. In fact, this is probably why they decided to ban us this week. This is probably the true reason. We had more subscribers and viewers than CNN Plus. Truth. True. And they spent, how much money did they spend setting up CNN Plus?
Millions, like over 10 million.
Yeah.
Several million.
Brendan and I did it for $1.95.
Yeah. Or, man, plus, I mean, the cost of a StreamYard subscription.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
honestly, there has been some expense to what we're doing here. Some of it considerable, actually. We've spent a fair bit of money on some very important things. We have been very frugal, but yeah, I'm sure that they're insanely jealous that we have had more subscribers. We still have them. We're just not allowed to know who they are, and we can't tap into them right now because we can't post anything, can't upload anything, can't live stream on YouTube. We are banned, which means we're right over the target. Good job, buddy.
Yep. Well, I mean, we've ruffled some feathers, and
yeah, it was the Trump content. It's the talking about the vaccines. It's that stuff. They don't like it.
Yeah, we did talk about that quite a bit last week, I think.
We did. We know the dangers, but better to be truthful and stay on the right side of history, I think, than bend to the knee to YouTube or Facebook and have to try to live with yourself when you're in the grave, right? Except you're not alive. It's the afterlife, and hopefully we go to the good place.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of that scene from the movie 300, movie reference for Liz Valley, when King Xerxes says to King Leonidas of the brave 300, he says, "Oh, bow to me now, and all will be forgiven." And he goes, "Well, there's going to be a bit of a problem with that. I'm a little bit stiff in the knee from destroying all your content."
So I guess it's timely as well that we have been banned for 7 days off YouTube, because as we're being banned, the Biden administration, the Department of Homeland Security, announced that it has launched what is being called a Disinformation Governance Board to combat misinformation, which is, to say the least, very Orwellian, extremely scary. So what is the Disinformation Governance Board? What is it really? Well, let's face it. It's all about censorship, folks. That is what it is. Any thoughts on that before we begin the deeper discussion on this, Brendan?
It is entirely about censorship, and it is very Orwellian. With this type of thing that we have, and we're going to get more into it, but this is the type of stuff that's happening all over the Western world right now.
Mm-hmm.
You pointed out last week when it first happened that the reason why they're doing it is because of Twitter, but I don't think that is the full picture, because it takes time to organize this. They didn't just have this in their back pocket for Elon Musk to buy Twitter. They all had all their ducks in a row. This woman who runs it, I have her name and content up here in a moment. We'll share it with you. But they've had this all planned out for way longer than Elon Musk has been considering buying Twitter.
Yeah, you're talking about Nina Jankowicz.
Yeah, thanks.
And yeah, she's, I guess, going to be heading this whole thing up. And she's going to lead this new Committee of Public Information. So she gets to decide what people are allowed to see, consume, what information on social media. And you're quite right, Brendan. This is not just about Twitter. It's not just about Elon Musk. This is a global effort. This happening in the United States I think people need to understand is actually part of a global effort a coordinated global effort by globalists to censor information, to regulate what we can see, what we can hear, what we can read, what we think. That's why it's no coincidence, in my estimation, that we are seeing censorship legislation pending in Canada, which will control information on the internet. It is not unlike what we're seeing here in the United States with what people are calling the Ministry of Truth. And I think that that's probably a lot more accurate than the title that they have given it officially, which was, I keep forgetting the name. What are we calling this? The Disinformation Governance Board.
Yeah. I also have to point out the UK is already here with speech laws, eh? Mm-hmm. Anything that they deem hate speech could end up in the police coming to your door, fines to be issued. You're not allowed to say a whole ton of stuff in the United Kingdom, especially criticism towards certain religious aspects. Like, they're already done. They'd have no free speech there. Not on a public platform, anyway.
You know, all of this is going to tie into what we're going to talk about soon, too, with regard to this hate crime, so-called hate crime, or whatever you want to call it. I don't like that phrase, which is why I'm saying so-called hate crime. I don't like hate crime, hate speech, hate this, hate that. But this graffiti that was spray painted on the side of the church in Ottawa, it's going to tie into that conversation. But this whole thing with this Disinformation Governance Board, very, very concerning. Here's why. This will control. This is how deep this thing goes. This is coordinated and really what it does is it sidesteps the Constitution in the United States. What it does is, see, the government is in the United States is constitutionally, they're not allowed to censor people because you have the right to free speech. But what they're doing with this new extension of the Department of Homeland Security is they're coordinating with the private sector. So it's a public-private partnership. This allows the private sector to, through Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all the social media platforms, it not only allows them to engage in censorship with the direction of government, which I think is unconstitutional, but regardless, that has to be challenged in court to see where that goes. But it allows this coordination of this public-private partnership. And it's extremely dangerous because this is exactly what the founders, the fathers of the United States, right? That's what they were trying to avoid, is exactly this kind of thing. So the Constitution, freedom of speech, it's absolutely under attack because now the government coordinating with the private sector through these social media platforms where people say, well, it's privately owned. They can do what they want. What are you going to do? Well, this is what they're going to do. And it ain't cool because it really isn't just the private sector. This is being coordinated by government in partnership with the private sector, which is, and I pointed this out before, it's a form of fascism. It's a form of corporate fascism where you have, because what corporate fascism is, economic fascism, is it allows private ownership of corporations. And these corporations are allowed to run themselves with their boards and with employees. So the government doesn't run them, but the government does control them through regulation, government grants, subsidies, tax breaks, penalties, laws.
Empty threats.
So they manipulate these corporations and the boards and the CEOs. They guide them. It's like if you It does. If you want to talk about like electric vehicles is a perfect example. It's like you will build electric vehicles, and if you do, we'll give you X billions of dollars to upgrade your factories. And if you don't, you get nothing. Plus, we're going to penalize you and tax you because you're still producing cars powered by internal combustion engines. So you got a penalty over here or a reward over here. So which way are you going to go? Well, if they're offering you $3 billion, in fact, we saw that today. Again, more money announced for the auto industry in Canada, billions of dollars incentivizing them to build electric vehicles. On the other side of that, you don't build them, you don't get that, plus you're going to get penalties. It's the same thing with social media. So government, through regulation, tells social media what they want. If you don't comply, if you don't act in this particular way, if you don't censor these groups or censor this language or crack down on this misinformation, then you get penalized. If you do, then you get rewarded. So they're coordinated. And I don't think that these privately run companies like Facebook, YouTube, Google, I don't think they're entirely independent anyway. I don't think they ever were. And I think a lot of the technology that they use was developed not just privately, but through government and through the military. And so we're seeing that's why YouTube is so advanced, folks. They didn't just develop this on their own. This is the most sophisticated, the internet itself is a product of military innovation, technological innovation. It was a military secret before they allowed the public to have it. So these companies are not just accidentally successful.
Yeah.
They have the backing of government. Government is involved. This whole thing is unconstitutional, but to prove that and to get a precedent set in court and through the legal system takes time. It takes a ton of money. And I'll throw it over to Brendan to get his comments on this. Then I want to talk about the definitions of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, because that is also very critical within this discussion.
YouTube is look, I really remember this whole adpocalypse thing that happened 2010, 2012, something like that, where Coca-Cola was quite upset that their ads ended up in like jihadist recruiting videos that were on YouTube. And then so that they started pushing hard for censorship. A lot of people got hurt. Usually it was liberal and conservative people altogether. Anybody who talked about politics remotely, they're like, oh, we can't have an ad with that. It's a huge thing about profits for them at the end of the day, that they don't really care about what the sole message of what it is for. But listen, people are going to use YouTube to talk. I think it's blatantly irresponsible of them to do what they're doing here. And they have the opportunity to be really good, if not better. I mean, I know I said that already, but we really need to see things stopping, going in this crazy fascist direction is driving me crazy. Really, like.
I got to say, Brendan, I'm happy to see that we've got so many people actually watching tonight, and we still have comments coming in. Yes. So, I mean, I thought it would be you and I, and maybe a couple of other people, and that'd be about it. But we still have an audience, and I'm grateful for that. So, thank you to all of you who had the foresight to migrate off YouTube and join us on other platforms. We do have some folks watching, so that's a good thing.
Yes, for sure. I agree. So, I mean, thank you for being here with us, folks. It is great.
And let's talk a little bit about these definitions. We have, I guess what they're, this new agency, this arm of the Department of Homeland Security, the Ministry of Truth, they're going to be targeting three kinds of information, they say. First, there's misinformation. Then there's disinformation and malinformation. And as I understand it, or what I'm getting from this as I've been reading through the documents and through some articles about this, the way I see it, misinformation is information that you might post that you didn't really, that's not meant to be, that misleads people, but you're not misleading people intentionally. It's an unintentional it's a post that unintentionally misleads people. So that's the first thing they're looking for. So if you do that, it's still out and you're in trouble. You're going to get your stuff taken down. And I'm not sure what the penalties for doing something like that might be, but at the very least, I'd say you're going to get censored. Then there's disinformation, the second kind. Disinformation is being, I think, defined through the documents that outline what this new government agency on censorship is. Disinformation would be people outright lying, using lies to mislead people. And I would think that the penalties for that will be more severe. You're certainly going to be censored, your posts taken down off social media, whatever form of information distribution you choose to use. I guess you could be targeted for disinformation, which is basically they're going to accuse you of lying. And the third type of information, malinformation.
Now that's a new one for me. I just had to throw that out there.
Okay, so malinformation. So I have to backtrack now. So you've got, because I have to keep it straight. Misinformation, unintentional. Misinformation is disinformation is an outright lie. And the malinformation, I have to get this straight in my head again. The third one is, I had it in my head.
Malinformation is
like,
making something up for malicious intent?
Yes.
So
that's right. So it's like, maybe I had these straight in my head before we came on the air, but maybe I've got it a little bit mixed up.
And then I interrupted you.
Yeah, I had it straight. The point is, in the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you post. If they deem it to be any kind of information that they don't like, that they think, I think this is the most important part of it. In the way this agency is framed, and I don't have the documents in front of me because I'm doing this all from memory, and there was a lot to absorb. But as I remember from the documents that I read, basically any information that sows disunity and challenges the government, that's information that they would target and would classify under those three different headings. And more importantly than that, they can even go so far as to classify you as a terrorist, whether it's misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation. And I'm sorry that maybe I got confused on these definitions, but there are three main different types of information. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to this. The three different types of information cover everything. It doesn't matter what you post. All they need to do is just decide that this information that you've put up in this post, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's even goes beyond social media. Anything you publish, if they deem it to be information that runs contrary to the government interest, and if it's not, they're also looking for, and I can't remember the exact term in the documents that outline what this new government agency is, but it's basically they're looking for cohesion, unity. There can be no dissidence. You can't disagree with what the government is doing. And if you do, you run the risk of being classified as a terrorist, possibly facing charges. This is extremely dangerous. It goes beyond anything we've seen ever in Western society. More than that, this is coordinated globally. We're seeing similar efforts to censor in other Western countries, including Canada, where right now we have pending legislation which will likely be approved within the next probably the next 2 months, maybe. And once that happens, it does the exact same thing. It will censor the internet, give the government the power to go in, and in conjunction, coordination and partnership with social media companies, take people's posts down, censor people, take people right offline. And then in conjunction with hate crimes legislation, laws that we already have in place, and stronger ones even coming, you combine the censorship with hate crimes laws, and you've got this juggernaut of a legal system that can steamroll right over somebody just because they've posted something that the government or some bureaucrat like this Nina Jankowicz, is that her name? Am I getting her name right? Nina Jankowicz. So, you know, someone sitting in a room someplace just decides arbitrarily that you're guilty of misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, blah blah blah,
crime.
blah, blah. Hate crime. You're a bigot. You're a terrorist. You're going to jail. This is wrong think and wrong speech.
There's some problems that I have with this in the big sense that, number one, this is contrary to the human spirit. That the human spirit is a complex thing. It does not going to account for satire. Like, if you take a look at what The Onion is, or the Babylon Bee, who are also suspended from Twitter like 2-3 weeks ago or something like that. Yeah. Satire has always been a thing. I personally, I love to laugh a lot, and if, especially at silly, stupid things, they're gonna take that away from people. Number two, you touched on the founding fathers of the United States, and it's very important to make mention of Benjamin Franklin, who had his hands in there. Benjamin Franklin started off his life with an apprenticeship in the printing press, and he owned and operated several printing presses, and he has written several essays and articles regarding the importance of free speech in a democracy, and for freedom of the press, to criticize government. These are all things that they didn't necessarily have prior to 1776. And with the United States, those were all brand new ideas at the time. The United States is founded on these principles. Like, this is a total slap in the face.
It's more than a slap in the face. It's a direct, full frontal assault on freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom, period. And, you know, Joanne says Trump will take it down. But here's the thing. This is all happening as a prelude to the next presidential election and even the midterms, but especially the next presidential election. Let me point out that the main reason I can tell, because of the videos that were targeted by YouTube, every single video that we've done with Donald Trump mentioned or where he appears, because we've been running the live coverage of his rallies. Every single one of those taken down yesterday off those YouTube channels. And now we can't post. It's because of Trump.
Yeah.
They hate him. They hate him. And they're going to do everything they can to make sure he does not get reelected. Starts with this. They're going to go after everybody like us, every conservative voice, every dissenter, everyone fighting for freedom, every freedom fighter. They'll use this to intimidate, censor, and take people down. And Trump can't take it down if he doesn't get elected, and he can't get elected if he doesn't have a voice. He has started Truth Social, but that thing isn't up and running properly yet, because I've been on there. I want to be on it, but I'm not an Apple guy. So I have Android, I have PC, I have one Apple computer, but right now to use it, as far as I can tell, you can only get on there with an Apple phone.
Yeah.
It's only available on the Apple Store. No Android yet. It's not set up to even use on my desktop PC, as far as I can tell.
And
So
then as
they've got a
far as
ways
that,
to go.
how effective is it going to be?
And then with Elon Musk buying Twitter, everyone is saying, "Yay, free speech will be restored. Elon Musk is our hero." I'm not so sure, because Elon Musk has to operate under the laws of whatever country the platform is operating in. If they have laws set up through this new Ministry of Truth, or this, I keep getting the name the Disinformation Governance Board, okay? God. And it's always the opposite of what they say it is, right? It's really the censorship board. It's what it is. So if they have laws that restrict what he has to do, or maybe even compel him to enforce censorship, then he'll have to enforce it. Otherwise, Twitter will be fined and maybe even deplatformed as a whole. So
Yeah.
he can only do so much. Trump can only do so much. Trump had this. This is the single biggest failure of Trump in the last, during his term. He didn't do anything about the social media censorship. He didn't do anything to protect free speech. I don't think he saw the threat. Plus, he had his hands full. I don't entirely blame him. Who could have endured what that man put up with for 4 years plus as president? And even now, they deplatformed him in the end.
I would
He
say
never saw it coming.
I would say Donald Trump won his election not only on the one that he did win. He won it on the basis of social media, and Barack Obama also used it as a powerful tool in his favor, and that's kind of where things started to steamroll with it. Now that they're not on it, like, how effective is it going to be? Joe Biden, the only way he brought him down was 4 years of the media basically constantly lambasting him.
Trump thought because he was popular and he had so many followers, they'd never take him down because they wouldn't want to give up the ratings.
Mm-hmm.
That was his ego getting the better of him, because what he didn't realize is they've got the whole freaking world. So he's just one of many big voices that they used to have on there. I think it's a terrible business model to say to probably half of your users, screw you, we don't want you. And if you stick around here, it's our way or the highway. But as I pointed out, this isn't just a business. This is a public-private partnership. They're acknowledging that now. I think it's important to say they're acknowledging it. It's not new. That's the way it's been from the beginning. And this censorship is being coordinated, directed by government. It's being directed by people on the left side of the political spectrum who are in power in government. And they're going to use this as a tool, as a weapon to retain power. That's why it's so darn dangerous. They're going to direct this specifically at Trump. He's going to have a much harder time getting reelected than I think he even realizes. And even his platform, Truth Social, will fall under the umbrella of these new rules. So he may not have the freedom on there that he thinks he will have, because he didn't do enough. In fact, he did nothing to protect free speech on these social media platforms and to disengage government from the social media platforms so the government can't direct them. This week also, we see that we have the Dinesh D'Souza 2000 Mules video about the election coming out. I really want to see that. I understand that there is irrefutable evidence in there surrounding the election, which we can't talk about here because we're still on Facebook. but I want to see what that's about. So I can't draw any conclusions yet. And then there's the other one, the other documentary out there called Rigged, which I've not seen. I want to watch that as well and find out what's in there. But these are very serious issues for Donald Trump heading into the next election, and they're even more serious issues for all of us who embrace the ideals of free speech and a free democracy, a free country. It's clearly not free anymore. In Canada, the country is lost, as I've said already. Canada is gone. We have to fight to get it back. And in the United States, you guys are not far behind. And this is one of the main reasons this thing goes deep. This is serious. This is perhaps the single most serious issue domestically in the United States and even globally, because as Brendan and I have pointed out, this thing is being coordinated on a global scale. So if this all takes hold, and it already is taking hold, it's already underway, when it gets connected, there's global censorship. This is a huge deal, folks.
Now, I think maybe we should take a moment to talk about this Nina Jankovic. And she has been this person who has been quoted as this mis and disinformation individual for a very long time. She used to have a Twitter account where she pointed out her problems with the laptop from hell story, which turned out to be true, a true story. That the New York Post had put out. So it appears that based off of her history that she's been spreading misinformation as well. And that's the problem, right? So these liberals, what they're doing is it's not about fact checking anybody. It's all about opinion checking, and we know this. I don't know. I'm scared. Should we roll the TikTok clip?
Well, we might as well. And then I want to come back and say and explain how this is going to come back at some point and bite her right on the butt and all of the people surrounding her, because this is going to come back and haunt them in ways that in ways they can't imagine. But let's run this crazy, stupid TikTok thing, which some of the people may have seen already. It may annoy the heck out of everybody, but I think, yeah, let's roll it because she's clearly a Nimrod.
Could you imagine being fact checked for that? She is not actually a Nimrod. All right, here it goes.
Let her rip.
Pondering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo, and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh, information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origin seems slightly less atrocious. Woo. Pondering is really quite ferocious.
Shut it off. All right. So, apparently, mental wellness or psychiatric evaluations are not required to be the head of this misinformation, disinformation governance board thingamajigger.
The thing is, I think people who think like she does, I think they like it. I think they would like that video.
Yeah. It's funny because her TikTok page is now private, except for that video. You can't access anything else.
Here's why it's going to come back and bite them on the butt. You have this unholy alliance between communists, far left socialists, and fascists. They're working hand in hand. they're on the same side of the coin, honestly, folks. And these are the people who are in favor of censorship. Right now, I think that the people sort of more on the left maybe are in charge. But when one of those groups, if one of those groups gets more control over power, trust me, you know, as they take our society down and tear everything down, which is what these globalists are doing, they're destroying our economy, they're destroying everything that's been built up so they can build back better in whatever utopian ideal they deem to have envisioned. But this is what happens. We're basically in a form of warfare. It's information war, but it's a bigger war. It's a global war. It's a war for the creation of a one world government. But there's also internal political struggles within that. And if they are successful and they push over more and more, and they're gaining more ground every day, and we got to stop them. But as they gain more ground, it's just like any other war where you have enemies forming alliances to fight a common enemy. But after the common enemy is defeated, which is what we saw even after World War II with Russia and the United States, NATO, right? They fought together during World War II to defeat the Nazis. After World War II, you had the Cold War, where the Russians, the Soviet Union, the United States became adversaries, no longer allies. Well, now you're going to have these fascists and communists, both authoritarians, fighting for control. And whoever gains that amount of control will use this power of censorship over the other group. So Nina Jankowicz better hope and pray that her side prevails, or she's going to be censored. They're going to eat each other in the end. They're going to eat each other.
The left always does.
Nothing
is ever good enough for them. Ever.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever good enough for them. No, you have to make sure you wear a mask. Oh, no, you have to wear 3 masks. You're in the anti-mask club now because you only wear the one.
And is this woman really qualified to run this new agency?
Her qualifications seem more in line with Broadway or musical
Broadway.
theater.
Did you think it was that good?
Oh, I didn't say it was good.
Oh my!
How much time do you think she put into that?
Too much.
I could just see her spending like 10 hours putting that together.
She had to write the lyrics, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So she must have spent a fair bit of time doing that. Let's take a brief break here, Brendan. We're going to come back. We'll continue this discussion and also get into the hate crime perpetrated against the freedom bikers in Ottawa over the weekend, during the Freedom Weekend, the Rolling Thunder demonstration up in the nation's capital. So we'll talk about that when we come back right after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
And the donations that we do receive will be used to fight for free speech, fight for freedom. That's what we're doing here. We are still alive in spite of this 7-day ban on YouTube. who knows? I'm told that if we're still bad boys, the next time we get banned, it'll be for 2 weeks. And then I think after that, we're gonzo for good. But that's okay, because you know what? This just shows we are right over the target. The donations that we have received so far, and we are extremely grateful to those of you who have sent in a financial assistance. We're using that to create the new website. There are expenses involved in getting onto some of these other platforms for the streaming software that we're using, keeping the lights on here. To me, I'm investing 8 to 10 hours a day just doing this to get these broadcasts out, between the research and the actual time, plus doing all the technical work, and then working to expand it onto these platforms and getting things set up, working on the website. We don't really have much staff here to speak of because we don't have any. It's really just us, the Freedom Reporters, but we're branching out. We are expanding. And man, we really touched a nerve over there on YouTube and on Facebook, where they are suppressing us at the moment because they're looking for more verification of identity, because they have acknowledged that we've been reaching a lot of people, and a lot of people have been tuning in. It shows that there's a thirst for truth out there, and that's what we endeavor to do here, is get everybody closer to the truth. If you can donate, you can make a contribution to support our work, our independent journalism here at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. There is also a hot link in the, I would say YouTube description, but it ain't there now because we're not allowed to stream on YouTube, but on Rumble and Odyssey and Facebook.
I have to say, we are plugged into my old YouTube channel.
That's true. I forgot about that, Brendan. That's right. I did set it up on there tonight. Because
just in case anybody's watching on the Flow of Discourse channel, hello and welcome. And yes, so we have the other channel, Maverick News, Maverick Multimedia, and that got censored. So if you're watching, that kind of explained what's going on with that, but that's okay.
Yeah, because I had 4 or 5 YouTube channels set up over there. There was the Maverick News, Maverick Multimedia, and then there were 3 other just Maverick channels, which is where we were getting the bulk of the views. That the 2 of them is where most of the subscribers are, and we'll be back to everybody over there after our 7-day ban. So we will get our audience back there and then let everybody know that we're over on these other channels. But for now, we're banned, which is, as I said, a great achievement. It puts us into a very elite club of others who have been banned.
All American and Canadian heroes, we salute you. Well,
yeah.
I mean, that...
So, and you know what? As I sit here, Brendan, I'm looking at the stats here because I can see numbers. Our numbers keep going up a little bit as the broadcast continues. So I think that people are, they have listened to us saying, if you can't get us, we'll be over here. So some people are coming over and joining us, I think, tonight on Rumble and Odyssey, because obviously we're not, they're like, where are you guys? Not on YouTube. Only on the one channel.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, yeah, just wanted to clarify that for anybody watching on the Flow of Discourse channel. Like, I am watching on YouTube. Which it doesn't really count. I mean, there's 100 or something subscribers there. It's very small.
And the other way you can support us is by subscribing on YouTube and Odyssey. And on those platforms as well, you can make small donations or a donation as well. In fact, over on Odyssey, just to live stream, there's a fee, right? Which is why we need donations, because there's a cost associated with being on those platforms. We're also over on BitChute, but they don't have the technology to live stream. The videos that are posted there are reposts afterward. So we have been, I wouldn't say experimenting, but we're starting to repost the content on BitChute. After these broadcasts are done, we reload them up there. So we do have some content on BitChute, but those are not live. And Gab as well. We'll be over on Gab but it's the same thing. I haven't focused on that because you can't live stream on Gab yet. They don't have that set up. Soon we'll be on Getter and some others, but we're working on it. Your mic is muted, Brendan.
Oh, sorry, I had a
Yeah.
Whatever. Back to our discussion is
Yes.
so we're gonna go back to that. I don't know if there was something that you wanted to jump right into with the Ministry of Truth there, but I took the liberty of looking up what the Department of Homeland Security is supposed to actually do. And the definition of that is very interesting to look at nonetheless. Hold up, sorry. There we go. The Department of Homeland Security secures the nation's air, land, and sea borders to prevent illegal activity while facilitating lawful travel and trade.
Except the Canada-U.S.-Mexico border, or the U.S.-Mexico border, where it seems to be a free-for-all. But other than that, sorry, go ahead.
I don't see anything in that about policing the internet, you know?
Well, the Department of Homeland Security does have a pretty broad reach. They also, as we know, have engaged in spying. So it goes. They've got tentacles that reach far and wide. Setting up the DHS as a response or as part of the war on terror.
Yeah, and I pointed that out plenty of times before that not only, well, it started off with a war on drugs, and then it started off with a war on terror, and then it started off with a war on the citizens, and that's what we have here now. This is a war on the citizens, and it's continuing. It's a total rejection of North American Western values. And I'm the first person to say, like, there isn't anything wrong with North American Western values. Like, they have allowed people to flourish for hundreds of years.
I'm mainly concerned about people being classified as terrorists.
Yeah.
For wrong think or wrong speech. And that is what is coming. That's the main thing. Because right now you just get banned off YouTube. You just get banned, censored. But this will go beyond that. They're coming for people. They're probably coming for us. Just because we're not in sync with their narrative and their objectives. So they'll use this as a political weapon to target political opponents. Today in Canada, I understand, and I haven't seen all the details on this, but the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, announced funding for Muslim groups to help them in these specific groups to create more media content, publish more media content to promote their ideologies, their religions, or whatever it is. I heard some of this today. So what that says to me, without me having all the details of this particular tranche of funding, but what it says is the government is picking and choosing specific kinds of information that they want to promote and other information that they want to suppress. And they clearly see this particular demographic as one that they want to reach out to and cement votes there, right? They see a voting block. So they're giving them money. And in a way, it's almost a trap, I think, even for them, because once they accept that money, they also are then beholden to government and have to say things the way the government wants them to say it. But the government is saying, okay, you Muslim group over here, whatever group it is, and I don't have all the details. Here's a bunch of money. We're going to help you promote this. So the government's saying stuff is okay. This group's not okay. This group, and because all of this legislation, censorship legislation, and so on, is so broad in scope, it allows them to target anyone that they want. They don't like you, you're targeted, you're canceled. They don't like you, you're in jail. They don't like you, you're a terrorist, you're gone. And it all comes down to definitions, really. Mm-hmm. So it's like they get to make up all these rules. They get to strip people of their rights. They get to just chuck anybody in the slammer that they want to, ultimately.
Yes. And let me and Rick be very clear here that we're pro individual rights. We're pro freedom of religion. To practice and choose whatever faith that you wish to believe in. We're absolutely pro in that. However, anybody who's taking this money from the government has to understand that your religion isn't in their cards. They'll throw you out like yesterday's news. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be a matter of time. All you have to do is look at Christianity, where we've seen dozens of churches across Canada desecrated, burned to the ground, and politicians snickering in the background about it. Yeah, I'm still quite upset about that, and how that managed, and how that turned out.
And saying they can kind of understand why people would do that.
Well, that's understandable.
It's understandable.
Or there was also funding for some type of program. I can't remember what it was, but churches that had beliefs on, what's it called? On abortions, or policies on abortions, were not required to, or were not allowed to have funding from specific programs. Mm-hmm. And may I add, in my own community, there is a church which operates a homeless shelter, and they apply for these grants all the time. And they get little to no grant money from the government, because the government doesn't want to participate in that. I find that absolutely atrocious. And that shelter operates at a fraction of the cost of municipally run ones. Like, just put it together, man. It's...
I'm just queuing up a video here to show you this graffiti that was spray painted on the side of the church, the Biker Church in Ottawa. So just give me a moment here, Brendan, because I want to show folks this stuff.
Yes, so there is a church in Ottawa on Sunday, yesterday, May 1st, 2022. Anybody who was attending the Rolling Thunder rally in Ottawa had in fact arranged to have like a church service there. Rick knows more about the church than I do, so he'll get into that in a moment. And somebody had gone and committed vandalism there. I'm also new to this story too, so I'm very excited to get Rick's take on it, and as well as what is going to be the response from all these politicians, because we know it's not going to be in favor of, we know it's not going to fit whatever it is that happened.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring up this video, and I'm going to run this video of, his name is Jim Kerr. I want to run his video because, well, police don't like him, and they keep targeting him. This is a guy who drives around in a thing called the bubble bus, and he's a freedom fighter, no question about it. He's been out to many freedom rallies across Ontario and I think other parts of Canada maybe, but he's been around for a while. He seems eccentric, but I can tell you from everything I've seen, he's a very thoughtful, intelligent guy. He has insight into some of the censorship laws and other legislation, including the new Ontario assisted death legislation, which I think we should probably get into in more depth in another broadcast. But Jim Kerr, much smarter man than many people, especially police and public officials, give him credit for. But he was in Ottawa, of course, because he is a freedom fighter for this weekend's freedom events. And yesterday there was a church service for the bikers who were part of this Rolling Thunder demonstration, where they went to the nation's capital, went to the War Memorial and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier to have a ceremony and honor Canada's war veterans. They did that in part because during the Truckers' Freedom Convoy, police erected fencing around the War Memorial after claiming the memorial had been desecrated, which was essentially a lie. And the veterans would have none of it. So veterans who were part of the Freedom Convoy came in and took that fencing down to take it back for the people. But these guys wanted to go back this past weekend, and did, to pay tribute to veterans in a proper way in the wake and the aftermath of the violence that we saw that came from police, in the wake of veterans being beaten by police at the Freedom Convoy involving the truckers about 2 months ago, which was beyond horrific and has since undermined public trust and confidence in policing, and was viewed by many as an insult to veterans. So they wanted to go back, and they did on the weekend. Turned into a huge freedom rally, really, again, up in Ottawa. We gave you great live coverage. We had a couple of freedom reporters up there on the ground, which, again, the funding that you provided helped facilitate that coverage this past weekend. We brought you live streams, the raw video, to show you exactly what's going on without spin, without a narrative, just the raw feeds. Plus other interviews from Carla Olson, from Jeff McCoy. They brought us great coverage from the nation's capital. Jim Kerr, this man on the screen, was arrested. Again, they keep targeting him. He had his bubble bus. It's a bus that he drives around. He's kind of, and it blows bubbles. It literally does. It blows bubbles. He calls it the bubble bus. And he takes it to freedom rallies. And he drives it around and bubbles flow out the back, and it's kind of funny. He calls it the Church of Bubbles. Interesting fellow.
So I'll let you rent this roll. I'll be right back in just a flash. I'm so sorry.
So Jim Kerr was at this final event for the Freedom Rally, and I'm just going to let him take us around and show us what happened at this church, because there was graffiti spray painted on the side of the church before a service there for bikers yesterday morning, Sunday morning. Keeping in mind that police, the mayor, the municipality, government held news conferences prior to the arrival of the bikers and the freedom supporters this past weekend, saying that they would have their hate crimes unit. They were activating that and making sure that they were monitoring everything for hate crimes. And they would be looking for inappropriate flags. And this is what we ended up with. Here's Jim Kerr. And I don't think it's what police were expecting or looking for.
Ladies and gentlemen, well, guess what? It's a beautiful Sunday morning, and we're at church. We are at the BIKER'S CHURch here in Ottawa. I'm going to give you a little look around. There's a lot of media outlets here because there was some nefarious behavior that happened here last night. Evidently, there has been some vandalists that have vandalized the building and thrown tacks down on the ground. We're going to give you a look around here. Hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you guys. Yeah. So, yeah, we were here. We slept here last night. We had the bubble bus towed here via MTO instructions. And when we woke up this morning, look what we found on the building here. Yeah, Canada, folks. This is happening in Canada. Church in Canada. Right here, folks, is where the bubble bus was parked last night. And some kind individual threw thumbtacks all over the driveway here. And then when we woke up on the side of the building, hey, this is what we found. So evidently, we're fighting a new type of fight here in Canada. We not only have to defend ourselves against police that would overrun us, but we have to defend ourselves against ideologies that the public, who has been fermented into a great big fear, is now exercising and unleashing upon those who don't deserve it, like anybody deserves that. But man, folks, I'll tell you, if we don't do something, this is not going to end well. I love him. Mikey!
That's great.
Hey guys, what outlet you guys with?
CTV News.
CTV
News.
CTV News. All right. Hey man, what about you? What outlet you with?
Radio Canada.
Radio Canada. All right, cool. Hi guys. Hi there. What outlet are you with? Radio Canada? Yeah. Cool. So we got CTV, Radio Canada. Hey brother, what outlet are you with?
Sorry, it's just from
Oh, sorry, buddy.
CBC News.
CBC, thank you. All right, so all the news outlets here evidently hate cells. At least, I don't think they're here for this service. I think they're here because this painting, building got all painted up. But who knows? We'll find out what it looks like afterwards. Hey, how are you?
God bless us, eh? Not just a dog.
Those guys are here to repent their sins for all the lies that they've been telling.
Yeah. They're gonna come here and tell the truth today. You think?
I don't know.
We'll see. Hopefully. Yeah, there's lots of cameras, lots of news outlets here.
Okay, maybe you can get a better picture. I don't know what's my problem here.
Come on, turn around. Photo. Where are you going? Are you ready?
You want to be in a photo? And if I can make it work, I'll give it to you. I just the shadow's not great, but maybe I can try it from different angles.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll just see if anybody wants to have a little word with us here and see what they feel about the things.
It was originally a Catholic church, and I think sometime 20 years ago, the Catholic Church sold it.
Oh, yeah.
And
And you come regularly?
probably once or twice a month.
Okay.
It's a bit of a drive for us to come here.
Yes, I figure.
Right.
Okay, I'll be live soon, but can I talk to you after?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, whatever you need to
Thank
do.
you very much, sir. It's appreciated.
Very busy today.
So this is the Biker Church here in Ottawa. It's not too late to come on down and show your support. There's a lot of
Well,
people
it is.
here.
This
It's a
is-
great
this is
service. You know what? We'll take you
recorded,
inside. I know that they do
Not live. This
video
portion
and
here.
live streams of this. So if you can find out the Biker Church, you'll be able to see what that looks like today. But we'll give you a quick move around just before we get started here and let you have a look around.
So that was that. You get the point. This is what was going on there. He showed you the graffiti, showed you the what happened. So Brendan, I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
But you know what else? This is just me. Okay. I guess other people could maybe comment on this if you want to. Maybe we'll get some comments on it in the sidebar here. I'm reserving judgment on this until we get more facts. I don't know if we will get any additional facts or if they will figure out who spray painted that graffiti. May or may not. I don't know if there's security cameras in the area. I don't know. I've seen too many things like this in the past where the person who perpetrates a crime like this ends up not being the kind of person, or even with a person with a group that you think. It ends up being something unexpected. I've even seen things in the past where the person who spray paints graffiti ends up being the person that was supposed to be the victim. They did it to themselves. And I'm not saying that is what happened here at all. I don't know. I doubt that very much in this case. I really, really doubt it.
Well, there's too many facts.
But the thing is, we just don't know who did this. So until I start spouting off about what I think we need to just wait and get some real facts. But I do have some other comments related to this that I think are crucial, very important. But I'll just throw it over to you, Brendan, and let you share your thoughts.
You're absolutely correct that until we know for a fact who did this, it's very possible that this could be a publicity stunt by the church itself. The speculation, asking questions here. We don't know. There's plenty of incidences of stuff like this happening in the past where that has happened. I mean, look at the Jussie Smollett case that happened in the United States, down in Chicago, where Jussie Smollett was a part of a television show. I think it was called Empire Records, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. He set up a publicity stunt where he had his bodybuilder or workout, what's it called, personal trainers, that is. He had them dress up with Trump hats and stuff and beat the crap out of him or something and put a noose around his neck and espousing.
Yeah, it was all staged.
It was all staged. He was convicted in court. They're currently trying to repeal that conviction. So what will happen with that, I don't know. But that's just one example out of many that you could draw from to help Rick's point there. However, if this was a mosque or a synagogue, you know what would have happened by now.
Holy smokes, yeah.
Justin Trudeau would be sitting on top of a mountain with a megaphone screaming, "We must get rid of these intolerant, hateful, bigoted morons."
Oh, it would have been international news for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, I have to say, police have said they're going to investigate this as a hate crime. Ottawa's mayor has come out and has said that this is unacceptable. So that, I think, is a positive thing. I think that's somewhat appropriate. Again, I'm going to say this about hate crimes. I'm uncomfortable with the phrase. I don't like it. I don't like hate speech laws. I don't like the use of the word hate crime. I don't like hate crimes per se, because I think that the legislation, the laws that are in that realm are not about that. They're largely written as political tools used by politicians, government, to target political opponents. I think they're extremely dangerous laws, especially these hate speech laws, which, as we've pointed out earlier, you combine that with censorship laws, and you have a legal juggernaut that just rolls right over people who are guilty of anything the government deems to be illegal, wrong think. I think I just think all of this stuff in this realm is extremely dangerous. It sounds like a good thing, but it's really designed to strip people of their rights, to limit free speech, to censor people. That's what hate speech laws are. That's what hate crime legislation is about. There are other laws in place, and were before any of these kinds of laws ever came into effect, to deal with this kind of crime appropriately. And this should be a crime.
Well,
but we had rules and laws in place before that I think were adequate, in my opinion. And I just don't like the hate crimes thing. So when they now rush in and say, well, we'll investigate it as a hate crime, okay, at least they're giving us the appearance. It looks like they're trying to apply the law evenly. Fine. I'm just not comfortable with the law.
No.
I think there are other ways that they could handle this, but that's what we're ended up with.
Do you not think that mischief and vandalism, appropriate crime, right? That was always a law that was in place. That is mischief. That is vandalism of technically private property. I mean, I don't like calling it private property because it's a community building. But
laws directed at people for inappropriate acts, regardless of the motivation, it's a bad thing to do, and you should pay the penalty for it.
Absolutely.
I think that the problem, and I need to think this through to a greater degree, right, to a higher level. But when you are targeting people based on what they think or believe, because of their religious convictions or their political ideology and so on, you're getting into territory where that's dangerous. If someone acts inappropriately, if they're inciting violence, regardless of the reason, it doesn't matter why. It shouldn't matter what their religion or their political ideology is. If they're inciting violence, then they should pay a price for that. If they're spray painting graffiti on the side of a church or any building, the motivation, if it's political or religious, it shouldn't really matter. What really matters is, what's the act? Is it appropriate, inappropriate, and so on? That's what you need to focus on, is the actual act. And as I say, I need to think this through a little bit more. But this really concerns me, because it gives the government far too much reach into people's minds and too much authority over what people think.
I have a thought too. Do you think that declaring or all this hate crime stuff, do you think there's a possibility? Well, I think that it actually does do this, but I'd like to know your thought. Do you think maybe it gives additional power to the court of public opinion?
Yeah, yes, it does. It incites the mob.
Yeah.
That's going to lead us into this next, dimension of this whole incident at the church.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm really not happy with the mayor of Ottawa, why I'm really not happy with the police chief, or any of the bureaucrats for that matter. I'll explain why when we come back right after this. And this is probably the most important point surrounding this whole hate crime investigation, with regard to the graffiti on the side of the Bikers' Church in Ottawa following the Freedom Weekend in the nation's capital. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this 30-second break.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
I don't know what good it does to tell people we're not on YouTube tonight, save for the Flow of Discourse YouTube channel of Brendan's, but we're not on YouTube. So if you're not on YouTube and you're watching us on these channels, thank you for finding us on Rumble, Odyssey, and Facebook tonight. If you are on YouTube, me telling you we're not on YouTube doesn't do you any good because you won't be there. All you'll know is that we're not there, and that's because we've been banned for 7 days for having wrong think and wrong speech, which is what we're talking about right now, because of the graffiti spray painted on the side of the Bikers' Church in Ottawa, just east of the downtown area, where a church service was held yesterday. And I'll show you, let me just bring this up and show you the a photo. Here we go, almost there. Let's bring up a photo of some of the graffiti that was spray painted on the side of the Bikers' Church. No haven for fascism. There was worse stuff spray painted on the other side of the building. I won't repeat the language. But that is what they woke up to Sunday morning at the Bikers' Church, where a service was being held for some of the people participating in the Rolling Thunder Freedom Rally this past weekend. So, Brendan, I'm just going to let you comment on that briefly. I'm going to just pop off here so I can get a clip of Ottawa's mayor queued up. And then when I come back in just a moment, I'll explain why. I'll explain the I think the most important element of this whole incident.
Well, once again, I am not going to be able to say with assurance that this is some kind of hate crime or that there's a bunch of individuals behind it. But one thing that we can say for sure is this is desecration of a community building. I'm just so baffled that even if it is the case that this is something to do with left-wing activism, if that is the case, how they don't see that lots of people have had their rights trampled in Canada very viciously over the past 2 years. This is something that we're seeing all the time, that whether it be Rebel News or several other outlets had put out interviews with individuals who were just off their rockers, saying crazy things like, oh, well, your rights don't end, or your rights end where mine begins, and all this nonsense. People have been fired. People have committed suicide. People have lost jobs. Families have been torn and ripped apart. There's been all kinds of crazy messaging coming from out of the government. And I think now we are ready for our clip, if I'm not mistaken.
So let me be clear. There are a few people, a handful of people, or maybe a group of people that can really be blamed for what happened at the church. You want to find out who's to blame? You're looking at the guy, one of the guys, right here on the screen, the mayor of Ottawa. You know who else you can blame? The police chief. You know who else you can blame? Justin Trudeau. What are you talking about, Rick? Why would you blame them for the graffiti? Because they spew hate.
Well, I'm so glad I thought of that question.
Because they spew hate, especially the Prime Minister.
Especially him. We can't allow a small fringe or minority with unacceptable.
So, what the hell did they think would come of their language, of the words that they've been using for months? What did they think would happen when they appear on television, when they have news conferences, and their voice is amplified, not just across Canada, but around the world? And they use that voice and they deliver a message of hate where they smear and lie, insult, and disrespect an entire group of people who came to their town to protest because they disagree with the government on political matters. What do you think? What did the mayor think would happen when he says that they're going to, in advance of the Bikers' Freedom Rally rolling into town? What did he think the result of him saying that they were going to get their hate crimes unit out? What did he think people? How did he think people would respond when you scare people by framing or describing a group of people coming to your town as being a threat? How do you think people are going to respond? When you tell people that a bunch of white supremacists are coming to town, when you tell people that a bunch of Nazis are coming to town, when these politicians, bureaucrats describe people in this way, directly and indirectly, how do you think people are going to respond? These guys are not bringing Canadians together. They're dividing us. This is what we get. You get graffiti spray painted on the side of a church. Doesn't matter who did it. It doesn't even matter the real motivations behind it. If it was a person who did it because they truly hate fascists, this is the outlet for them, because they've identified these bikers as fascists. In reality, many of them are veterans who fought for their country. And just because they ride a motorcycle, it doesn't mean they're anything other than individuals. Smearing people, painting people with a brush is prejudicial. That is what the mayor of Ottawa has done. And he's been doing it. He's been doing it for months. So has the police chief. So has the prime minister. People should be judged as individuals. If an individual does something inappropriate, then that individual should pay the price. But just because one person does something, you shouldn't be smearing the whole group. But let's go to this clip of the mayor of Ottawa in this interview on CPAC that we ran this before, prior to the bikers showing up this past weekend. But this is what he had to say. We'll let this run for a couple of minutes. Just listen to what he says.
Quotation mark.
So let's talk about what's happening this weekend with this Rolling Thunder rally. What are you expecting to see?
Well, we're expecting to see a lot of motorcycles. It will be loud. We're going to do our very best to control where they can and can't go. They're not going to be allowed anywhere near the parliamentary precinct. Certainly Wellington Street in front of Parliament Hill will be blocked off for all vehicles. They can walk up on the hill and have their rally and shout and scream all they want. But we'll also have our hate crimes unit monitoring what's going on. And if we see examples of hate crimes being committed, those people will be charged. So
right there, right off the bat, I mean, we're 54 seconds into the damn interview. 54 seconds, and he's already on hate crimes and conflating hate crimes with bikers and freedom protesters. So he's associating already. He's framing these people, characterizing them all as a bunch of people who need to be surveilled because they're probably going to commit hate crimes.
Also, it's a great insult to minimize their concerns. Like, he is not in any position to determine what is right and what is wrong and what is worth protesting and what is not worth protesting. You can go there, you can shout and scream all you want.
So even when the Freedom Convoy was there with the truckers before, we saw basically two things in this, right within the, this arena. Okay. One Nazi flag where it wasn't even at the protest. It was up at the hotel where the cops were staying. And it was some guy whose identity was basically concealed in a photograph taken by a guy who worked as Justin Trudeau's personal photographer, photographing the guy outside the Chateau Laurier Hotel, as I understand it. And then there was a second guy carrying a Confederate flag. And the people on the hill, on Parliament Hill, the protesters told the guy to get lost. He wasn't with them. But this guy, the mayor, the police chief, others, they, of course, and the media jumped on that, and they tried to turn that into a whole thing. In reality, we know that those flags were plants. Those people carrying the flags were plants. It's obvious. And there were only 2 incidents like that, but they painted the whole group, the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who came down there. They painted them with this brush of bigotry and hate. These people are all fascists. So when you do that, what do you think is going to happen? And then now we have this new demonstration, and before they even arrive, and in this one interview, and there are many other examples of the mayor, the police chief, other bureaucrats, politicians smearing people, slandering people associated with the freedom movement, painting the entire movement as some far right white supremacist fascist organization or movement. Terrorists, characterizing them as terrorists. We've heard that kind of language during this, this inquiry into the use of the Emergencies Act. That's how far the Prime Minister went, basically declaring martial law, to declare war on his own people, to declare war on the truckers and the freedom fighters, who we showed you were entirely peaceful, only to have the cops come in and beat the crap out of them to break up their demonstration. But 54 seconds into this interview, bam, Mayor of Ottawa, right to the whole, we're going to be watching them for hate crimes, looking for inappropriate flags. Let's let a little more. I'm going to back it up, let him say it again, and let a little more of this roll, and I'll get your thoughts, Brendan.
Have their rally and shout and scream all they want, but
they can shout and scream all they want, and then we'll just ignore them after we make sure they go home.
Also have our hate crimes unit monitoring what's going on. If we see examples of hate crimes being committed, those people will be charged. So we're not giving warnings or slaps on the wrist. This is the public of Ottawa are fed up with what happened during the convoy. We have to do a better job, and I feel much more confident that our city response and the police response to this convoy will be better. And with these things, as you know, Mark, you can't count on something to go perfectly smooth, because there are people now coming from other parts of Ontario in cars and trucks, not just motorcycles. But the same rules will apply. If they want to get a $200 ticket and have their car impounded or their motorcycle impounded, they'll park in a no stopping zone. So we've circled the whole area of the hill. We've got more police officers out in residential neighborhoods because those people, quite frankly, many of them are still dealing with the aftermath of the horn honking 24 hours a day for 3.5 weeks during the truck convoy.
Not true.
Not true.
There was a court injunction, which they complied with, and the horn honking stopped after a number of days. And it did not go on for over 3 weeks. That's, again, not truthful.
Yeah, and obviously there's been a lot more preparation this time around. And are you confident that there's a much better plan in place?
Anyway,
Are you confident, Rick Walker, that we're going to be able to crush people's Charter of Rights and Freedoms
That's right.
even better than we did last time?
Even the line of questioning from this guy, right?
Place than last time.
It's not about, gee, are you taking steps to make sure that their rights to free speech are being preserved? Are you respecting that? Is the charter being respected? No. It's all the mainstream media. That the line of questioning is constantly from the perspective of, what are you going to do to crack down on these guys? You're not doing enough. You need to go harder. Why don't you do more of this? Are the people of Ottawa going to be satisfied with the level of coercion that you're using in order to crack down on these guys coming into town? That's the perspective always from the mainstream media. What are you doing to crack down? Why aren't you doing this? Why don't you crack down harder? What are you doing to prevent these guys from coming in? Because they just see them as a problem. They see them as a threat. And as I've said before, the way they really view this is they view us, they view the truckers, they view the entire middle class, I think, the working class, as a bunch of redneck, hayseed, toothless hicks from the backwoods who are just something of an annoyance, who really don't deserve to be tolerated. They've got no respect for people. They think that, they characterize everybody as a bunch of bigots to the point where the mayor is like, yep, and the police chief, yep, we're going to make sure we've got our hate crimes unit down there to crack down on all those rednecks. You keep talking about crap in that way. You keep treating Canadian citizens that way. You talk about the people who pay your paycheck that way, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Police Chief, Mr. Prime Minister. And what do you get? You get division. You get people fearful. You scare people. And then you get graffiti on the side of a church. That's what you get. You get people behaving badly, not caring for each other. You get neighbors fearing neighbors. So who do I blame? Who do I blame for this? I blame the mayor of Ottawa. I blame the police chief. I blame especially the prime minister. I blame Jagmeet Singh. I blame every conservative politician at the federal level, every MP who has done nothing to stand up for what is actually right and for not representing all Canadians, for allowing certain groups of people to be targeted, for allowing them to be used as scapegoats, as political tools, pawns, to be blamed for the country's problems, so that they don't have to be held accountable for the crap that they've done, for the way that they've undermined the economy, for the way that they have divided people and spread hate. Divide and conquer. That seems to be the order of the day with politicians like Ottawa's mayor.
And this is a statement of fact. Nowhere in the time of history ever has, has political leaders, whether they be small or large, kings or queens, blaming all of the country's problems on a small amount of people ever gone well. Never. This has got to stop. People
We've seen this throughout the pandemic. We saw this in the town of Elmer, Ontario. the Church of God there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They were targeted by authorities because they wanted to continue to open their church in the face of government-imposed lockdowns. The media and government and police used them, I think, as a scapegoat. They directed so much vitriol at the Church of God that many in the community then felt it was okay. It was like open season on the church, and people, went down there and they shouted and they screamed at these church members, the people involved with the church. They threatened them. They were afraid of them. They were convinced that the people from the church were spreading the disease, which was not true.
Multiple hit pieces on the church from legacy media sources. Constantly.
To the point where I remember, someone that I love dearly said to me that they were watching the news and the mainstream media news and said, "Did you see what's going on in Elmer with that cult?" Because the mainstream media news described the church as a cult, or at least they had someone on who called it a cult.
That was the CBC Fifth Estate. I've seen that.
Well, how dare they? That's what you get when you divide people, and that's what happened in Ottawa. So when I saw that graffiti yesterday, when I see it now, it upsets me. But what upsets me the most is that I know that the mayor, the police chief, it's pretty rich for the police chief or the mayor to say, we're going to investigate that as a hate crime. It's pretty rich for the mayor to now stand up and say, oh, that's unacceptable. Is it? Well, then why did you open your big trap and smear all of the protesters coming down there as a bunch of white supremacist fascists? Is it okay to say it in a news conference, indirectly or directly, using whatever language you choose to use? But we just showed how he conflated hate crimes with the bikers before they even came to town in an interview that was seen nationally in Canada and is still up online. You can find it easily. So it's okay for him to smear the people using the same kind of language that was spray painted on the side of the building. Maybe not using the exact words, but words that are very, very close and definitely mean the same damn thing. So it's okay for him to say it, but it's not okay to spray paint it on the side of a building. Where's the line? Where's the crime? What the hell is the difference? If it's a hate crime to spray it on the side of a building, is it not also a hate crime for the mayor to have been saying it? Is it also not a hate crime for the police chief to have described people in this manner, or any bureaucrat? Is it not a hate crime for the prime minister to be spewing this kind of hate toward a very specific group of people? What the hell? What the hell is the difference? In fact, I would say, Brendan, it's worse what these people have done.
I would say liberals love to use this term, but I think this shoe kind of fits. This is the equivalent to saying fire in a movie theater full of people, which is exactly what they've done. The sky is falling, the bikers are coming, the truckers are coming, everybody hide in their home. And we know for every other protest that has ever been, all of these officials have ever said, well, I'm not going to comment on that. People have the right to protest, and everything's going to be the focus of community safety, yada, yada, yada.
If they had spray painted this on a piece of Bristol board or used a magic marker, that same message, I don't think that the cops would have done anything. It's only because it was on the side of a church.
Yeah.
Which I guess in their mind, finally something clicked. It was like, oh, this is on the side of a church? That's pretty bad. Gee, that's terrible. So something finally clicked in their minds that said, that kind of language is inappropriate. Gee, people shouldn't be doing that. Without even realizing how hypocritical they're being. These people are so indoctrinated, so brainwashed. Their thinking is so cloudy and mixed up because they're living in an upside down world. And these guys are administrating that confusion. It's gotten to such a point where they don't even now, as they say that they're going to investigate this as a hate crime, they don't realize that they were delivering the exact same message. So I would suggest to the cops, I would suggest to the police chief, you want to know who's responsible? Look in the damn mirror. Look in the mirror. And then decide if you're going to charge yourself. So before you come banning us off YouTube, before you come banning us off frickin' Facebook or suppressing us, before you use your new censorship legislation to come and lock up Brendan and I for wrongthink, before you come and have CSIS or the RCMP or Joe Biden's new Ministry of Truth cops come and arrest us or anybody else.
I'll
Check
bet you
yourselves.
I'll
Check
bet
your
you,
language. Check what the hell you're doing. That's my message, because you guys are way out of line. You've been out of line, and it's about time somebody damn well held you accountable. I would say you're not even the right people to be investigating the damn thing because you're biased, prejudiced. And I would go further than that. I would say that based on the way you seem to hate certain groups of people, you might even just be damn bigots. Your actions certainly suggest it, and so too do your words. Wake up, folks. You know what? Really deep down inside, I think the police chief is probably a good human being. I think the mayor probably is a good human being. It's just that their minds are so twisted from all of this backwards political ideology, this woke identity politics, the way the world has been turned upside down, and they're trying to survive as politicians and bureaucrats in this crazy, mixed up, screwed up weirdness, this Orwellian nightmare that somehow we've become immersed in, especially amplified over the past couple of years. They don't know what's right and wrong anymore. They're just trying to do what they think is what is going, the current trend, or what am I supposed to say? What's the right thing? What's the politically correct thing? What am I supposed to do? So finally, something clicked on Sunday morning with the spray paint, the graffiti on the side of the church, where they were like, gee, that's not very nice. No kidding. You should have been aware of that months and months ago before you started spouting off about it. So I've said my piece. I think it's pretty clear where I stand. And I think it's pretty obvious to anybody who really looks at what I just said that I'm spreading a little nugget of truth here. I think I just dropped another truth bomb, Brendan, in the war for freedom.
So when we get sent to Guantanamo Bay, are they going to torture us with that? What's her name? Nina Jankowicz. Do you think they're going to torture us with her song that she made? Maybe she has like a whole album
over and over again while they waterboard us.
Yeah. Exactly. I laugh now, but I mean, it has happened in Guantanamo Bay. They have used Barney and heavy metal.
We getting
music.
any comments over here? I was going on my rant, I guess. Another Rick rant.
You went into the black.
CTV told the truth about the ghost of Kiev was not true. Okay. Justin Trudeau started it all. Yes. Exactly. Thank you, Cassandra. Yes, 100%. People are tired of government and authorities that order this and that. Yes. If the Conservative Party was so for freedom, why was not one MP showed up Saturday at the protest? Yes. They keep throwing that word around, right? All these leadership hopefuls now, and we even see it at the provincial level in Ontario, all across the country. Suddenly, freedom has become a word again that they're embracing, which is a little bit weird too, because for 2 years, if you used the word freedom, you might as well have been using the word fascism. That's what they've been conflating it with. And that NDP MP who now conflated the words honk honk with Heil Hitler?
Oh, that was
or was it a liberal?
Liberal
Liberal MP.
Yeah. They even made a cartoon about her on Freedom Tunes.
Yeah, come
Pretty
on,
hilarious.
man. Hong Kong meets Heil Hitler.
This is
No, it
vitriol
doesn't.
for. Give me a break.
Laney says this world is so crazy and no love for others. Exactly. They're dividing everybody. It's what they want. That's exactly what they want. That's how they get their power. Vote for me and I'll protect you from your neighbor who's evil. Yeah, the bikers rally was for our veterans who fought for our country, and this is how they were treated. Exactly. The government using the word freedom has a double narrative to get votes. Exactly. Brenda Lawler, Brenda, they would get there. I don't know what that means. That's referring to some other comment that I've not seen, so can't comment on that. But you see how the government divides us. You see how Justin Trudeau has been dividing us. You see what happened in Ottawa. It's terrible.
It is absolutely. This is also a interesting thing. So, I mean, it'd be funny to make like a political hit ads against all the politicians being like, they didn't show up for the veterans. They do not support the veterans. Which, I mean,
all the mayor of Ottawa and the police chief and the others, in charge up there wanted is they just wanted these people to go away. They wanted them to get the hell out of there. They didn't want to have to deal with them. They realized, though, and I did mention this, that in a way the freedom movement is winning. They won a little bit in a way on the weekend because they forced the government to acknowledge that they do have the right to protest.
Yes.
When they went up there the first time, they went so far as to invoke the Emergencies Act in order to expel them from Parliament Hill. But with the revocation of the Emergencies Act, with it gone now, no longer in force, the charter basically comes back into play again, and they have to acknowledge that they have the right to go up there and protest. So they had to at least let them walk up. The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms is challenging, I think in court, they said they might, but they certainly expressed concern about them not allowing the motorcycles to roll up to the National War Memorial, which in itself may have been discriminatory and therefore unconstitutional, but that's a whole legal argument that needs to be played out in the courts, and the event is over with now, but maybe it will set a precedent for later. Regardless, it's pretty clear, and even from the tone and the words and the language and the plan that was outlined by the mayor and the police chief and the bureaucrats in Ottawa, their objective was to just try to to get these guys out of there as quickly as possible and restrict their movements. It wasn't about and go only so far as they needed to acknowledge that they did have the right to protest. They just don't like the people and they want them to go away so they can ignore them again.
You want to know why, and we all know why. Because there's a lot of criticisms and there's a lot of truths that get spoken at these things. And the truth is rather uncomfortable. They'd rather not deal with the truth.
Well, I'm pretty I'm just disgusted with the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate that the bikers had to endure this. I think it's unfortunate the truckers have had to endure it. And I think it's just it's unfortunate that people are still being viewed in this way. And it's not over. Not by a long shot. The prejudice that has been bred from all of this, right? It just continues to spread like a cancer.
That's exactly what this is. This is like rot from the worst crevices of our society. This is cancer.
Yes.
And there's a clear link to all of this and the universities. At least I would say.
Well, the ideology, the woke identity politics, critical race theory, it's all embedded in the curriculum now. Like this is, there is indoctrination. Obviously, we've talked about it many times, especially at the university level, but it's going all the way down now. It's filtered all the way down to kindergarten. So it's It's all about collectivism. It's about communism, fascism, authoritarianism. That's what's at play. It's about globalism.
Big
These
time.
globalist forces. And it comes right back down. And it manifests itself in these kinds of actions that we saw over the weekend with this graffiti. So you can look at security tapes and you can try to find the individual who actually spray painted the message, and you can take action against that individual, appropriately so, fine. But if you want to find the root cause, we just showed it to you. Look no further than the Prime Minister's office, the Mayor of Ottawa, the police chief, other politicians across Canada and the United States, around the world, who subscribe to this identity politics that divides us all. And look no further than the actual words and language that is just the same, no better, just as divisive and just as hateful as the words that were spray painted on the wall. The words that came out of these politicians and bureaucrats' mouths. Same damn words, similar words, same meaning, but they're not being held accountable. They're not being investigated. No, well, they only want the guy who spray painted on the side of the church. What the hell is the difference? Nothing. It's the same.
Yeah.
Worse to sit at a news conference in front of a bunch of cameras and then broadcast that to the entire planet. Literally.
From a position of authority, no less.
That's right. These are supposed to be people who are supposed to be our leaders. They're the ones who are supposed to unite us, bring us together so we can live in harmony. They've done the exact opposite. And he's so freaking stupid or so bigoted, he doesn't even realize that he's done it. Or if this guy doesn't realize he's done it, does Justin Trudeau know he's done it? He chooses his words very carefully. He chooses his words very carefully. He's a wordsmith. His speeches are crafted. He practices before he speaks. Keep that in mind as you judge him. And we should judge him because he is in a position to be judged as the Prime Minister.
Yep, our little Prime Minister's all grown up now. He's a long ways away from his drink box, water bottle type things Prime Minister that he was. That's a mouthful. All right, so let's roll the commercial, and we will jump into the next story. I think we've exposed this for what it is, and I mean we'll come back with an update as soon as there's more information on what's happened with this.
If they ever get to the bottom of it, but we'll be right back after this 30-second break.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
And we have been banned for 7 days on YouTube. Our content is being suppressed on Facebook until we file new paperwork with them. So the thought police are out there in full force, and you can help us fight back. Fight the information war by donating at freedomreporters.com. If you can make a donation, we'd be extremely grateful, especially since they've basically taken away the bulk of our subscription base in one fell swoop today, and by banning us off the YouTube platform. We keep trying to get people to follow us over to Rumble and now Odyssey, where we are also live streaming this evening. We are still on Facebook on a limited scale. We're on one channel, Brendan's Flow of Discourse channel on YouTube, so people can still watch us there, but we don't have the subscribers there. They're on the other Maverick News channels. Help us fight back, make a donation, or just subscribe to the new channels. You can support us that way as well, and that in itself is a huge thing to do as we try to build and expand out onto other platforms. We're not dead. We're not going away. They're not going to shut us up that easy. We are not going to give up. Our resolve when it comes to fighting for freedom is infinite. So go ahead, YouTube, Google, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Take your best shot. And tonight we do have viewers. I can see the numbers. People are following us over. They are finding us. Thank you, everybody, for seeking us out and not just giving up on us over on YT. We're still alive. We're still viable, and we're going to build and build and build. And we will be back on YouTube 6 nights from now, I guess, or 6 nights. Yeah, it was 7-day ban, so we'll be back after a week.
We'll have to be on our best behavior when we get back, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's no sense in provoking them any more than we already have. We knew this would come, though, right? The problem is they're going to go through and they're going to find any content now in the hundreds and thousands of hours of videos that we've produced that still remain up. But they went through today and they started taking stuff down, left, right, and center, and then they gave us a 7-day ban. So, quite an achievement. Congratulations, Brendan. Good job, my friend, my partner in crime.
How many hours would it take somebody to sit there and watch all that? And if they're a liberal, they're just probably sitting there with their mouth wide open, gobsmacked. They're like, "Oh my gosh!"
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It reminds me of Cartman's mom from South Park, where you said what? I make myself laugh too much. Anywho, in other news, should we do the Borgo?
Yeah, let's talk about Joseph Borgo.
Yeah, here, I'll bring up his page. Uno momento, por favor.
So the Conservative Party of Canada is conducting its leadership race. And actually, let me bring this up first, Brendan, because I have this up. I'll bring this page up so people can see. So this is the race to become the next leader of the Conservative Party in Canada. And today they announced the verified candidates. And here they are. I received this email message from the party. The verified candidates are Scott Aitchison. I don't know a lot about him. Roman Baber, who is a freedom fighter. He's been fighting against mandates. Patrick Brown, who's kind of a wishy-washy guy who ran for the provincial leadership of the Conservatives, got ousted in sort of a hit piece where he was accused of a sexual thing, inappropriate sexual advances or something with some women who I think it was really just more of a political hit piece, but he's not exactly, he's a kind of a strange guy. Jean Charest, who's been in the political game for a long time, but I would say is very left-wing. He's a red Tory, meaning that he's as liberal as they come and probably is a liberal, but running in the Conservative ranks.
Orange Tory.
Yeah, even further left than red, sort of part of the NDP. Dr. Leslyn Lewis, who a lot of Conservatives like.
She's pretty sharp, I gotta say. I mean, there's
Pierre Poilievre, who keeps throwing that freedom word around left, right, and center, and is confusing people a little bit by saying he's not running for he's saying he's running to be the prime minister, which is true, but right now he's just running for the leadership of the party. But he keeps saying he's running to be prime minister in his videos, and he's stealing the talking points from, I think, really the People's Party of Canada leader, Maxime Bernier, and even some of the provincial parties in Ontario and other parties that just talk about freedom. So there are the 6 official verified candidates. And it's interesting because there was a 7th. and he was on this program. He, I think, is a freedom fighter, and he didn't make the cut, which is a little bit weird. And his name is Joseph Bourgault. You want to bring up his page there, Brendan?
Yeah, so first
And
off,
we'll find out why.
I will show everybody the announcement he made a few days ago, as it's all quite suspicious. So, April 29th, 12:30 a.m. That was on Friday, or excuse me, Sunday. Approximately 1,000 nomination signatures, approximately 400,000 in donations raised. We are now waiting for the Conservative Party Canada to give final approval. So everything was submitted, supposedly by the deadline, and give it a little bit of time. It is with great disappointment that we were advised by the Conservative Party of Canada last evening that we are ineligible to advance in leadership campaign. They stated that our team did not meet the registration fees and compliance deposit of $300,000. Our team submitted $367,453 before the deadline of April 29th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We are seeking clarification from the Conservative Party LEOC committee because we have met all the financial and signature requirements. Interesting.
Interesting, but not entirely surprising. Politics is a blood sport.
Yeah.
It's not a nice thing. It gets nasty. Joseph Bourgault is a freedom fighter. I would say he is probably conservative leaning, but also acknowledged in his interview when he was on our program that he believes in bringing people together, that he acknowledges that some people have other views. So the country needs a left wing and a right wing because, and you need to acknowledge that, and he seeks balance. I totally get it. That being said, I would say there are people within the Conservative Party who saw him as some sort of threat. Somebody doesn't like him or what he stands for. I can't speak to the exact technical reasons as to how the party has justified not allowing him or not accepting his registration as a leadership candidate, but we've seen things like this unfold in the past. And with this Conservative Party in its current state, I would say, where the hell have they been for the past 2 years of this pandemic? To stand up for people's rights and freedoms? Nowhere. What have they done? Roman Baber has been the most vocal, but he's a provincial politician who is now trying to move into the political arena at the federal level as a leadership candidate for the Conservative Party of Canada. They're allowing him in. I would say on that front, he's a pretty major threat because of the things he said, the way he has stood up from the very beginning consistently to fight against lockdowns and things like that. So that's been his position.
Well, Rick, it's a little early to say on that because, I mean, look at what happened to the Jim Karahelius in the 2000 what was it? It was the 2020 leadership campaign, which saw former Conservative Party of Canada leader Aaron O'Toole rise to power. It was a great flip-flop. Terrible. He was controlled opposition. So we basically had a house full of people who agreed for a very long time. It was very disappointing. It was very hard to live under. Nobody felt represented, which I really see that as one of the number one reasons why the PPC surged so high compared to their previous election. But here's the thing. I wouldn't count Baber in all the way in for anything at this point because Jim Karahalios was removed. It's my understanding that it was for quoting from direct media something his campaign manager had said.
Well, he's in now.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, though. They probably will target him. They certainly will. His opponents will target him, and they'll try to take him out one way or another.
Yeah.
And we've seen how nasty things can get within that Conservative Party of Canada. That's why when they call here looking for a donation, I'm not giving them nothing. Why would I give anything to any party at this point that has done nothing to protect the Charter, nothing to protect the Constitution, and has been engaged in such terrible politics internally? It's not cool. Not with me.
It is very terrible politics internally. Yeah, I would not give them the steam off my you-know-what. Not going to be too verbal on that, but...
so now what they've done with Joseph Bourgault, I don't know. Well, we'll let this play out over the next few days or maybe the next week or whatever amount of time it takes. But Joseph Bourgault is a businessman. He's very successful. He runs a company that deals with farm machinery out in Western Canada. And out there, his name is pretty big, but he's from Western Canada. So in the East, not as well known. That being said, he's a smart man. He's very competent. He has a lot of credibility behind him, in my view. It was a privilege to even have him on the program just to speak with him.
Absolutely.
I think, he's not a career politician. And in that way, he's sort of an outsider. But I don't think that I don't think he would have missed a deadline. I think that he would have been well versed in what the rules were to get this thing done. So I'm not sure I buy this whole thing where they're saying he failed to file in time or whatever it was.
It was to pay the money.
Yeah, the money. Because he's saying it's
I have a question for
$300,000.
you.
They had $367,000.
I have a question for you. You're the smart one. What the hell? Where the hell does that money go? That's a lot of money.
It goes into the party.
For what? A cocktail party?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at each party has their own rules. I'm not entirely familiar, Brendan, with how the money is used, but they would use that for the convention, for expenses to go into the party coffers. They raise those funds and they use it for campaigning and into the general funds, I expect. But every party would have its own constitution or their own framework and how they deal with all of that, right?
Okay, I wasn't sure. I was like, yeah, it is a significant amount of money. Like,
oh yeah, it's a serious deal, man. That's also why it gets so nasty.
And yeah, is it? Do you have if it says $300,000? Why? What about this extra money that they give? Is that? Again,
I don't know. We'd have to
get
the documents from the party to find out what the rules are for the leadership race, and it would outline all of that. And each party would be a little bit different as well. Maybe someone has more knowledge about exactly how that works, but I've never been involved with the Conservative Party to that level. So I just don't know. I've been involved with other political parties, but not at that level. So Charest has a bad rap sheet in Quebec. I don't know what that means.
A rap sheet is
I know what it means, but I don't know what it means.
So, I don't know what it means.
And I don't want to get into it because we don't want to say anything that could get us sued. So we're not going to go down that road. Where were all these people when protests were going exactly? What's this? But Trudeau looking to pass Bill 11 to take a break till September tonight. That's interesting. With all the stuff going on here, I'm not aware of that. What's that about?
I don't know. I just thought I'd take a peek at it really quick. An act to enact consumer privacy protection.
So he wants to pass that tonight. This is the censorship, online censorship bill.
C11.
I don't know if it means tonight, or I don't know if that means that they're dealing with this tonight. I didn't think it was happening that quickly. But
that's the old bill.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
anyway, I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm not sure that's accurate, but we'll find out soon enough what goes on with that, because I think really we're likely to see something happen with that bill within the next couple of months. But we shall see. So with regard to Joseph Borgo, they're seeking clarification. There's some technicality they're trying to use to prohibit him from running, to get him out. Just an interesting development, and I think it just shows how nasty it can get, how nasty it is with the internal politics with the Conservative Party of Canada.
Well, Rick, in about 16 minutes, the House is going to do a vote, so Parliament is live.
Let's bring it up.
Well, there's nothing there yet. It's counting down for 16 minutes.
And this is on CPAC?
It's on House of Commons website.
Okay, well, let's just get it queued up and get it ready to go.
Yeah.
And, then we can drop in on that. So thank you for raising the awareness and making us aware here. I didn't know that vote was happening tonight, but it's obviously very important, and we need to get that up, because this is, I didn't realize it was going to be dealt with so quickly.
It says vote call, government business number 11, extension of sitting hours and conduct of... And
they want to get this done as quickly as possible.
Extending proceedings.
Interesting. Make no mistake, this is being coordinated globally. This is coming at the exact same time as this new extension of powers for the Department of Homeland Security in the States, the Disinformation Governance Board under Joe Biden. So this will happen at the same time. And you get these government bodies, these governments coordinated. You get them also coordinated with these social media platforms and these public-private partnerships. And you have this massive, incredibly powerful censorship machine that they roll out globally, even just between Canada and the United States. That's what it is. Coordinate it over the borders, make it international. You can't escape. So you can't just set up an account and, if you're in Canada and you're being censored, now you can't just set up your account in the United States. You think you're going to set one up in Russia? They'll just ban anything coming out of Russia, as we've already seen. You're going to set it up in Cuba or Venezuela or Paris? None of that is going to work. So even if you have a VPN and you're hiding your location and you're setting up another account someplace, you can't hide.
So Rick.
Yeah.
So this was announced last week. Liberals propose temporary new power to adjourn House without notice and revive late night sittings, in a move typically not seen until closer to the end of spring. Of the spring sitting, the Liberals have given notice for a motion looking to revive late night House sittings, while also proposing to give ministers the temporary power to table without notice a motion to adjourn the Commons until the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really even need to watch that, because we know what's going to happen. It's going to be packed with NDP and Liberals, which outnumber everybody else, which is the Conservative Party of Canada and the Bloc Québécois, which never thought we would see so much in common with the...
Yeah, and I can't comment too much on this because I don't I mean, I'm only getting this information like coming in here, right? So until I really know exactly what's going on, or we see it unfold on screen. But if they're, I guess they're going to deal with this tonight. This is coming up.
Yeah, in 12 minutes.
Yeah, so in 12 minutes we'll bring up the feed. We'll bring it to you live right here on the Maverick News Channel. We'll grab that government feed and we'll show you what happens. And this is, if it is what we think it is, then it's extremely important. And it just shows this will show, if it is what we think, that they want to deal with this quickly. And I would say, and keep it in coordination and in timing with what's happening in the U.S. and in other jurisdictions around the globe.
Well, what this is going to be is it's going to lead up to the censorship bill getting passed in the dark of night without anybody having to notify anybody. So it's not to pass that, it's just to allow the Liberals to do whatever they want in the House of Commons, basically.
Well, it's to get it passed so that they then have this in place, and then they can go put their feet up for the summer and not have to come back. They're all going to take a big, long break, continue to collect their paychecks. They'll be on an extended vacation and not have to deal with any scrutiny or questions. And this censorship law will then roll out in time for the U.S. midterms so that even here in Canada, people won't be able to criticize or say things that they don't want said as it relates to any of this stuff going on in the States. You won't be able to, and it also coincides, probably not accidentally, with the Ontario election coming up. So the timing on that couldn't be worse for any of the candidates running on the freedom side, because they'll clamp down on that stuff. And we will need to, we may never get back on YouTube. Worse than that, they may force even platforms like Rumble to impose censorship as well, because Rumble is actually based in Canada. And so even though they're supposed to be a free speech platform, there's no guarantee that free speech mandate or I don't know if mandate is the right word, but their conviction to providing a free speech platform, they may not be able to provide that if the government compels them to impose censorship.
It's a mission statement, right? So that's their supposed mission. And in
Thank
other
you.
cases,
that was exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we damn well know what the hell is going to happen with this. Liberal NDP alliance outnumbers the House.
And Brendan, this is the piece of legislation, censorship, that I have been most concerned about. Here it is. This is another step, once passed, and this will pass. Make no mistake.
Oh yeah, this is going to pass. It's not going to be I'm not surprised. Like if you're surprised about this, then tune in more often. We talk politics, and we'll show you how it works. In fact, we can show you how that works right now.
This is going to kill us. This is another step toward an Orwellian dystopian society. We already have no rights. We have no real freedoms in Canada. And once this is passed, you can't even think anymore without the risk of being punished. Not cool, not good. I'm worried about it. Maybe I should just stop worrying so much, right? Just stop worrying and be happy.
No. We already know what the hell is going on. Like it's like we have a crystal ball or something. We're going to stop sharing this for a second, and we'll just take a look and show everybody.
Adam is asking, where is everyone? Well, Adam, we've been banned off YouTube for 7 days for wrong think and for, I guess, saying wrong things and for posting Donald Trump clips. And they went through and started taking down our videos overnight. Today, they imposed a 7-day ban, so we can't upload any videos. We can't live stream on YouTube for 7 days. Needless to say, we have a lot of subscribers on there. The bulk of our subscribers remain on YouTube. We'll be back on there in a week, but for now, we're on Rumble, Odyssey, Facebook, and that's it. Reposting up to BitChute, but that's not live, and we can't stream live on Gab. We can't stream live on a lot of different platforms because they don't have the technology there yet. So they're not live streaming platforms. However, we do have a number of people watching. Some people have found us here tonight, and we're grateful that some people have made the effort to come over and find us. We've been saying for a long time, come and subscribe on Rumble or now on Odyssey so that you can be notified when we post videos on those platforms. All you have to do is subscribe, and you'll automatically get an email notification.
All right, folks. So, I mean, this is Canadian Politics 101. There's 338 seats in total. The Liberal Party holds 159 of those, and each seat represents a riding. New Democrats hold 25 of those. The Liberal Party and the NDP Party are holding what you call an alliance. And so basically whatever Justin Trudeau says, they're going to do. And in order to return the favor, they'll help pass some NDP bills that makes them happy. So the people who are probably going to oppose this is going to be the opposition, the Conservative Party, and the Separatist Party, Bloc Québécois. There is the Green Party, but nobody cares about them, or the Independent. In either case, that's what's going to happen tonight, is the red guys and orange guys are going to steamroll the blue guys.
I don't think those blue guys are going to be that strongly opposed to it, honestly, Brendan. I think these conservatives will fall into line. You'll see quite a number of them, I think, voting in favor of it, unless they're being whipped and told not to. Depends on what Bergen decides to do and how they might want to try to posture themselves in a different way to make themselves look like they're freedom fighters. But I kind of doubt it. I think that they will vote mostly in favor. I'm not sure. I know that they have expressed some opposition to it, but I just don't buy this whole freedom thing that's, I just don't buy it when they start throwing the word freedom around now after 2 years of backing up all the lockdowns. And I just, they've been under O'Toole. No, when Harper was prime minister, if I'd heard the word freedom used, I would have been inclined to buy into it, but not now.
Well, this is the backdrop for the vote tonight. Liberals propose temporary new powers to adjourn House without notice and revive late-night sittings. So late-night sittings would indicate that they could call members to the House for a vote in the dark of night. You could be sleeping or at your kid's dance recital. Oh, we're going to do a vote. Oh, you're not there? Well, that's too bad. And so
the reality is most Canadians don't have time to pay that much attention. When they elect politicians and members of parliament, they expect these people to go up there and represent the constituents. They think that once you elect the person you want, they're going to go up there and represent your views, your interests. And I think here's the real problem, Brendan, is that here's the truth. For the most part, these members of parliament are these liberals and New Democrats who have now formed a coalition to create a voting bloc. They do represent their constituents, and they're doing what they said they're going to do, because this is what they do. They censor people. They're all for censorship. And the people on their side of the political aisle, they're in favor of all of that. They don't believe in freedom. They don't believe in individual rights at all. In fact, they want them stripped away. There are a lot of people in Canada that do want that. They don't want freedom. They're opposed to it. They don't like it. And then there are people like us who do.
Well, let's give the backdrop here, because the vote's going to be in 2-3 minutes. It says, in a move typically not seen until closer to the end of spring sitting, the Liberals have given notice for a motion looking to revive late-night House sittings, while also proposing to give ministers the temporary power to table without notice, a motion to adjourn the Commons until the fall. So meaning that they could shut down everything, and the Liberal NDP alliance could do whatever they want with their.
Yeah, well, they already have that. This is not really about that, though. This is about, they're going to use this new, they're going to use this, which they've had before. They're going to use this new situation so that they can go in there at night and deal with this censorship thing. That's the big deal tonight, is the fact that we're dealing with this issue of censorship and this bill that will allow the government to censor the internet. And it's not just about us, it's about you folks. This is about what you're allowed to post, what you're allowed to say, about what you're allowed to see, read, hear, watch. They're going to control everything. This will give government the ability to further control the social media platforms. This is about controlling the internet. And this particular article is just outlining the government's decision to start dealing with some of this stuff late at night in order to accelerate the process of passing some bills and then giving themselves the ability to take the rest of the summer off. Before we even get to summer, they're going to have an extended summer vacation if they choose to use that portion of this. But it's this bill that is of main concern tonight, this Bill 11. And if indeed that is what's being dealt with, and we're not, in error on that.
No, it is. It says right here, government business number 11 on the House of Commons website. So yes, we've already seen that. But my point I'm trying to make to you, Rick Walker, is there's no longer going to be any opposition voice. So we always see the clips of House of Commons with opposition. They don't want any media out. They don't want any speaking out, any opposition speaking out on any of the things that they're doing whatsoever. And that's a bad thing. That's very bad too. Like that's going to be extremely negative. So we're going to hear about everything that happens after the fact, and the rest be what it will.
We'll see how it rolls out tonight.
Yes,
only minutes away, really, to
4 seconds.
To having them to go into the live feed in Ottawa, so we can see this whole thing. We see the members of Parliament, the MPs, coming in and taking their positions. And there can be opposition, but these MPs need to be present. They need to be aware. And if they can call these votes late at night without notice, then they can make sure that certain people are notified and others are not. And that's how they can guarantee that things get passed.
Excuse me just a moment, sorry.
There you go. The question is on the sub-amendment of Government Business Number 11. Mr. Holland, seconded by Ms. Bennett, move that notwithstanding any... May I dispense? No. No dispense. Yes. That notwithstanding any standing order, special House order, or usual practice of the House. A, on the day of the adoption of this order, the ordinary hour of daily adjournment shall be 12 a.m. until... I'm getting heckled again trying to read this, yeah. That until Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, a minister of the Crown may, with the agreement of the House Leader of another recognized party, rise from his or her seat at any time during the sitting, but no later than 6:30 p.m., and request that the ordinary hour daily adjournment for the current sitting or subsequent sitting be 12 a.m., provided it be 10 p.m. on a day when a debate pursuant to Standing Order 52 52 or 53.1 is to be take place, and that such a request shall be deemed adopted.
I'm happy to do it, but then I'm here anyway.
Bay Lord in séance prolongée.
B, on a sitting day extended pursuant to paragraph A. I, proceedings on any opposition motion pursuant to Standing Order 8116 shall conclude no later than 5:30 p.m., Tuesday to Thursday, 6:30 p.m. on a Monday, or 1:30 p.m. on a Friday, on an allotted day for the business of supply, except pursuant to Standing Order 8118C.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Brassard, seconded by Mr. Berthold, move the following amendment that the, may I dispense?
You may. Yes.
That the motion be amendment A in paragraph A by replacing the words,
We're waiting for everybody to
quote, a minister of the Crown may be in agreement of the House Leader of another recognized party, end of quote, with the words, the House Leader of a recognized party may, with the agreement of the House Leaders of two other recognized parties.
II by replacing the words but no later than 6:30 p.m. and request that the ordinary hour of daily adjournment for the current sitting, or with the words request with at least 2 sitting days notice, that the ordinary hour of a daily adjournment for III by adding after the words a subsequent sitting the words other than a Friday, and 4 by adding after the words a day when the debate pursuant to the Standing Order 52 or 53.1 is to take place, the words of a or a day appointed for consideration of business under Standing Order 8041A in paragraph B by deleting paragraph I.
Calls or III by deleting the subparagraph III, all of the words in the words Crown, and C in paragraph C, I by replacing the subparagraph II, the word 35th with the word 15.
I don't think this is
II by deleting
this is not
subparagraph IV.
dealing with this.
Sous-amendement, M. Thériault, appuyé par M. Perron.
Sub-amendment. Mr. Thériault, seconded by Mr. Perron, move the following amendment, that the amendment be amended in subparagraph AII by replacing the words 2 sitting days notice with the words 1 sitting days notice. The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started, and the House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person. All those in favor of the sub-amendment will please rise.
Monsieur Brassard.
Monsieur Brassard.
Really?
Mr. Bazan.
Mr. Bazan.
Mr. Chong.
Mr. Chong.
Monsieur Berthold.
Mr. Berthold.
Mr. Fast.
Mr. Fast.
Mr. Albus.
Mr. Albus.
Ms. Findley.
Ms. Finley.
Ms. Dancho.
Ms. Dancho.
Mr. Nader.
Mr. Nathan.
Mr. Jennis.
Mr. Jennis.
Mr. Schmale.
Mr. Smale.
Mr. McLean.
McLean.
Mr. Seaback.
Mr. Seaback.
Mr. Lawrence.
Mr. Lawrence.
Mrs. Gray.
Mrs. Gray.
Mr. Kimmich.
Mr. Kimmich.
Mr. Calkins.
Mr. Calkins.
Ms. Lantzman.
Ms. Lantzman.
Mr. Malillo.
Mr. Melillo.
Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed.
Mrs. Gallant.
Mrs. Gallant.
Mr. Caputo.
Mr. Caputo.
Mr. Small.
Mr. Small.
Monsieur Gould.
Mr. Gould.
Mr. Steinley.
Mr. Steinley.
Ms. Rude.
Ms. Rude.
Mr. Ellis.
Mr. Ellis.
Mrs. Goodridge.
Mrs. Goodrich.
Mrs. Cramp-Nyman.
Mrs. Cramp-Nyman.
Ms. Ferrari.
Ms. Ferrari.
Mr. Zimmer.
Mr. Zimmer.
Mr. Leipert.
Mr. Leipert.
Mr. Richards.
Mr. Richards.
Mr. McGuire.
Mr. McGuire.
Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kitchen.
Mr. Kitchen.
Mr. Waugh.
Mr. Waugh.
Mr. Motts.
Mr. Motts.
Mr. Epp.
Mr. Epp.
Mr. Couric.
Mr. Carrick.
Mr. Mazer.
Mr. Mazer.
Mr. Morantz.
Mr. Morantz.
Mr. Patzer.
Mr. Patzer.
Mr. Soroka.
Mr. Soroka.
Mr. Van Popta.
Mr. Van Popta.
Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Muse.
Mr. Muse.
Mrs. Roberts.
Mrs. Roberts.
Mr. Tolmie.
Mr. Tolmie.
Monsieur Terrien.
Mr. Terrien.
Madame Normandin.
Madame Normandin.
Monsieur Garon.
Mr. Garon.
Madame de Bellefeuille.
Madame de Bellefeuille.
Monsieur Brunel Duceppe.
Monsieur Brunel Duceppe.
Monsieur Perron.
Monsieur Perron.
Monsieur Barcelou Duval.
Monsieur Barcelou Duval.
Madame Desbiens.
Madame Desbiens.
Madame Saint-Clair Degagné.
Madame Saint-Clair Degagné.
Mr. Morris.
Mr. Morris.
All those opposed to the sub-amendment will please rise.
Mr. Macaulay Cardigan.
Mr. Macaulay Cardigan.
Monsieur Duclos.
Monsieur Duclos.
Monsieur Lametti.
Mr. Lametti.
Madame Petitpas-Taylor.
Madame Petitpas-Taylor.
Ms. Duncan, Etobicoke North.
Ms. Duncan, Etobicoke North.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Mr. Scarpaleggia.
Mr. McKinnon Gatineau.
Mr. McKinnon Gatineau.
Mr. Biddle.
Mr. Biddle.
Mr. Garrettson.
Mr. Garrettson.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Ms. Sahota.
Ms. Sahota.
Ms. DeBrusen.
Ms. DeBrusen.
Now we know why there's no quorum calls.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Monsieur El Khoury.
Mr. Fonseca.
Mr. Fonseca.
Mr. Van Couverden.
Mr. Van Couverden.
Ms. Zarovitz.
Ms. Zarowitz.
Mr. Sidhu Brampton East.
Mr. Sidhu Brampton East.
Mrs. Suds.
Mrs. Suds.
Mr. Badaway.
Mr. Badaway.
Monsieur Robillard.
Monsieur Robillard.
Mr. Sorbara.
Mr. Sorbara.
Mr. Lewis Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Lewis Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Turnbull.
Mr. Turnbull.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Weiler.
Yeah, this is not dealing with the censorship bill,
Mr.
Brendan. This
Gahir.
is not
Mr.
what it
Gahir.
is.
Ms. Thompson.
This is just dealing with the
Mrs.
extension of
Valdez.
sitting
Mrs.
hours.
Valdez.
This
Yeah,
is
I know.
just item
Mr.
number 11.
Julian.
Mr. Julian.
So,
Ms. Kwan.
Ms. Kwan.
as I said, I
Mr. Garrison.
Mr. Garrison.
if this is what it was, but that's not what
Ms.
this is.
Idlout.
So
Ms.
this
So
is
what's the
Mr.
importance of the
McGregor.
extension of
Mr.
hours?
McGregor.
Ms. Gazan.
Ms. Kazan.
Mr. Green.
Mr. Green.
Ms.
it
Barron.
allows them to deal with things in a faster manner, I guess, and without having read what the bill is in its entirety. I'm speculating. I don't want to say too much about it because I'm not exactly sure, but from the information we've been given here and in that article, it allows them to extend the hours that the House can sit so they can deal with these matters in a quicker way and without notice. So just bring the stuff up and bring it in, which is exactly what we saw happen in Ontario with Bill 100, the Keep Ontario Open Act, where they brought it in without notice to get everybody to vote on it. And they didn't actually notify all of the MPPs, like Belinda Carahalios from the New Blue Party wasn't aware that they were going to do it. Rick Nichols was, I think, the only guy who voted against it. And he hadn't really been, he said, notified, but realized because he was in his office at Queen's Park, realized they were sitting, and then he ran in and took part in the vote. Belinda, I don't think, had that opportunity. So those would have been the only two dissenting voices. Rick Nichols got to vote against it, and that gives the government and police unprecedented powers, as we know, to do an end run around the Constitution and lay charges against people for protesting if they block infrastructure. And there are other aspects to it as well that we won't get into tonight. This thing here right now, so this is just amending their procedures so that they can extend into the evening hours and deal with some of these things. And I don't think they need to do anything fancy here in order to get any bill passed because they have the coalition formed. So anything Justin Trudeau wants to get passed, he's going to get passed as long as he remains on side with Jagmeet Singh and they hold that coalition together. So I'm not exactly sure why they want to do this because I don't know enough about it. And so I kind of want to reserve saying anything more about it because I'm glad that I prefaced and sort of teed things up there saying if this was Bill C-11, but this isn't Bill C-11, as our person in the comments indicated. This is item number 11 today, not Bill C-11. Bill C-11, totally different matter, still going through the legislative process. But yeah, it is interesting to note that in tonight's vote, it does give them the ability to suspend Parliament so they can then take a break until next September if they choose to. Not sure what that's about. Seems to indicate that they're looking at giving themselves an extended summer break. And once they do that, this government too, you have to remember, they haven't really been present for much of the pandemic. The government itself was operating and for extended periods of time without an actual budget and just spending money any way they wanted. They weren't facing public scrutiny in the House because the House wasn't actually sitting. And now they're looking at an extended vacation potentially through the spring and summer, and they wouldn't even come back until fall. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I hope they don't do that because the people need to see these guys working.
Why are the Bloc and Conservative voting in favor of this? It sounds like it's going to just provide an advantage to the Liberal NDP coalition, or is it designed to bring less, or is it possible that this may bring less NDP Liberal people in to vote, which could possibly sway things to...
I'm not sure. Again, I'm just, without having read it and really knowing, I don't know. Anything I say at this point with regard to what just transpired, it's speculative because I just don't know. I don't honestly think this is that big of a deal. Okay. I think that they're doing this so they can just get some work done in the evening. Maybe there's some strategy behind it. I don't know what the motivation is. So until I know more, I can't say anymore. We just know they've had a vote on this item, and it's about extending the ability to vote on matters and deal with matters into the evening and possibly take an extended break. So I just don't know. So I'm sorry if we kind of set off any alarm bells on Bill C-11. It wasn't my intention. Just saw that notice come in from one of our viewers saying they were voting on C-11, and or at least it appeared that way, but that's not the case. So that will be dealt with down the road still. And I am very concerned about it, C-11. That's a big deal. Very big deal. Censorship. This was item 11, not C-11. So there you go. So tonight we've dealt with we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
From Joseph Bourgault, apparently being excluded from the Federal Conservative Party of Canada leadership race on a technicality from the way it looks. And we'll see where that goes if he has any recourse. I think that's extremely unfortunate because he seems like a great man and could be a great voice for Canadians, but who knows? What else have we covered? We also covered the issue of censorship, the Ministry of Truth in the United States.
And I have to apologize for sharing that very cringy TikTok, which I'm sure we've all seen enough of. And I'm sure me and Rick will hear much more once we get sent to Gitmo.
And we will be hearing a lot more about the Disinformation Governance Board, which is going to encroach on people's freedom of speech and perhaps even their freedom of thought in the United States. And we're going to see more of that in Canada, which, as we get into more about this Bill C-11, which we thought might be happening tonight, but it's not. And that was a false alarm. So sorry about that, folks. But yeah, and then also we dealt with the hate crime as described by Ottawa Police. That's what they're investigating in Ottawa with that graffiti saying no haven for fascists and other even worse graffiti on the side of that church for the bikers in Ottawa.
People want to know if this passed, which I'm sure we can tell them did or did not. There you go. Wait, is it still up? Oh, I took it off. Whoopsie.
Mm-hmm. We'll find out. We'll just bring it back up.
Yep, give me one moment. Okay, so vote results. 152 yay to 177 nay. So it did not pass. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah, and again, without having read it, I'm not sure what was in it, so can't comment too much about it. But there you have it.
Yes. And so, yeah, that is the show for this evening. And,
yeah, and we're banned.
We're banned.
Good job, Brendan. Way to go, buddy.
Virtual high five.
Great achievement.
It is.
Banned for 7 days on YouTube. Rock and roll. If you can support our work and help us fight back, donate at freedomreporters.com. And I'd say hit the hot link in the YouTube description, which you can on Brendan's channel, Flow of Discourse, the one YouTube channel. I don't know how many we have on there. But,
like 70 something.
But mostly we're looking at people tonight on Rumble, Odyssey, and Facebook. So you can hit the description, the hot link in there, and that'll take you to the donation page, or just go straight to the URL, make a donation if you can. We're going to need money to expand out onto other platforms. Even being on Odyssey, there's a cost involved. There's a cost on Rumble. There's a cost on BitChute. There's a cost for a website. So that's what we use the funds for, and it keeps the lights on here. Just expenses, more than you might realize, actually, to keep all of this stuff rolling. Software, hardware, it goes on and on. But we haven't given up. We're not going to give up. Our resolve remains intact. We are continuing the information to fight on the front lines of the information war here on the Maverick News Channel, and you have my word, we're committed.
Yeah, I'd say.
And I know that the people on the left would like to commit us, but that's okay.
I bet you hallelujah that our friendly neighborhood troll is probably having a party right now as we speak.
He's probably missing us and very confused.
Yeah.
But I noticed no comments from hallelujah in on the sidebar tonight, so we'll see if hallelujah is back when we go back to YouTube in a week and we get our subscribers back. Until then, we'll be staying right here on the Maverick News Channel on the Odyssey, Rumble, Facebook platforms, and I'll see if I can add any others for tomorrow night as we continue to spread freedom and do our best to preserve freedom of speech. Brendan, over to you, and you can start the wrap up.
I am your co-host for the Maverick News Channel. I'm Brendan Kennedy, and I will be looking forward to seeing everybody again tomorrow.
Another great 3 hours that we spent with you tonight. Thank you, everyone, for moving over and looking for us and finding us on these alternative platforms. We did have some viewers here tonight, which is very encouraging. It shows that some people did subscribe previously to our Rumble channel, and now we're on Odyssey as well. So spread the word, share this video out as much as you can. Spread the word. See if you can get more of our Maverick family over here onto these other channels for the rest of the week. We'll still be here broadcasting nightly, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Catch you all on the flip side.